Yo, what's good everybody? My name is Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. Today, you and I are going to be taking a look at the sampler from Bitwig again. Now, the reason why is because there are some really awesome features that I think are overlooked. I saw this post on Reddit that I actually responded to of somebody saying that Bitwig is lacking a lot of features in the granular department, which, okay, maybe you can't change the grain size in the sampler, but you can do a lot of other really cool stuff. So I kind of want to cover some of those things, especially with one of the newest features that's been added, which is the voice stack spread and the voice control. And with that, putting that on a couple of different things will give us some really super sick options. So if that seems interesting, then I invite you to hang out with me while I do a little bit of sound design and show you some concepts to help you get an idea for a song perhaps. But before we do that, I'd appreciate it if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out alchemy.com if you like my sounds. Okay, cool. So what are we working with here? We have a bell that I just made literally 30 seconds ago. And what I want to do is I'm just going to play some notes that are in key and see if I can come up with something interesting. Now, I don't care what's going on. I have a rolling sampler on the master, which is way the heck over here. And all I'm going to do is just play something in key and have a little bit of fun for about 30 seconds. So if you don't know what to do, I guess I can do this as well, is we can go to key filter to make sure that you never mess up. This is going to make sense here in a bit. I'm going to stick with whatever, D sharp Phrygian, because that's what I make most of my tunes in. And now whenever I hit a note, because it's on constrain, geez, it means that even if I hit an incorrect note, it's going to move it over and make sure that it plays the correct thing. So check this out. Why does it sound so happy? Alright, so that's more than enough. So we're going to pull both of this out, or both of these rather, and then as opposed to trying to re-record or something, we're just going to join these together, kind of like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss this inside of this guy. And we are going to pitch this to D sharp 3. Actually, let me just set it here and then see if this will actually detect the root key. So not quite. If it's something that's a little bit more conventional, like one sound, then sometimes it'll catch it, but sometimes, you know, you never know. So anyways, what's cool about this is if I were to play this, obviously, we can get some cool stuff with that. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set this to texture mode and turn on the freeze. And if you're not familiar with this, it basically freezes where this is. Right, it just sounds like this. But if we turn on the grain size and then apply a little bit of motion, we're going to get a little bit more interesting timbres. So let's go ahead and turn on the release and then maybe a little bit of attack. And now pretty cool. So what I want to talk about now is the really neat device, and Polarity is a great resource for this, for more information. But if we go to the voice control here, there's a lot of things that we can do. So for one, we can actually put on some voice stacking here, and what this is going to do is basically create 5 instances of this sampler without creating 5 instances of the sampler. So this is pretty significant because if I wanted to, I could actually move all of these into a different position, kind of like so, to where the playhead of this is going to be somewhere different per voice. And you might be saying, Alckemy, why would I do that? And you never know. Sometimes it could sound stupid, sometimes it could sound really cool. Let's give it a shot. Pretty cool. Now, the thing with this, though, is that we can do better. So one thing that is kind of interesting, and I didn't know this, but if you just set a random modulator, or actually any modulator, to the playhead of this, and it's in poly, then that means that it's going to do different stuff every time. So check this out. If I go random, and we set this to this guy, and you'll see that this is on poly, then whenever I play a note, it's going to actually bounce out and spread itself out on its own. So we can set this to be kind of curved here. But something that we can do in order to give ourselves a sense of finer control is we can actually utilize this by going here, and we can use the voice control to set different amounts of the random. And we can also do this with LFOs as well. So what I'll do is I'll actually backtrack just a little bit. I'm going to take this one and turn this off. And now what I'm going to do is grab an LFO. So say just a classic LFO. We're going to set this to note retrigger, and I'm going to change this to 2 bars. I'm going to change the amount all the way down, except on this guy right here, I'm going to change the amount to all the way up. And so now I will map this all the way to the texture. And so only this voice is going to play through the entire thing over the course of 2 bars. So check this out. So with these individually now, with all of these different stackings and stuff, you can kind of get really creative with how you start to utilize the granular sampler to play different stuff. And I would encourage you to utilize the voice stacking in different ways. This didn't actually do the behavior that I thought that it was going to. It did the last time that I did this, but even still, maybe if I set this to, oh, that's because it's here. So check this out. Let's turn bipolar off and see what that does. So now with this, let's go ahead and crank this up just a little bit and see if we can get one playhead to move where we want it to, and then get the other one to go the opposite way. Let's go to this one. Maybe that's going to make it play this way. And then what we need to do here, which I totally forgot, is we actually need to apply this to this as well. So that's why that wasn't spreading out. But bringing this back, now whenever this moves, check out the playheads. So you can see this one is moving where it wants to go, and then the other ones are kind of dancing around. Now that might not seem that interesting to you, but if you kind of pull back on this with just a little bit of a low pass here, and maybe we send this through some convolution reverb, something like so, and then let's go ahead and clip it with an over. This is the newest device from Bitwig, the best device, one of the best devices from Bitwig. Thank you, Bitwig, for doing this. Then what we can do is kind of send this into some really nice space. I guess we can utilize some delay as well, just for fun. And I'm going to set this maybe to jump, or fade rather, and move this up a bit, turn this up a bit, just because I want extra space. And we can get some really nice ethereal pads now. This I want it to move a lot slower because all of these notes are playing very fast, so the more notes you have, the slower I want this to kind of run through. So now maybe if I turn on the motion and then make this really slow at like 2 or so, we might be able to kind of get something that seems a little bit more dreamy and ethereal. There we go. So now with something like that, we can kind of pull from this and we can toss this back into a sampler and keep doing the same thing if we want to. I don't really know what key that's in, but it doesn't really matter. Or we can kind of play this as a means of keeping track of it, or setting a different loop point, or just using it in audio. There's lots of different options that we can utilize, and I encourage you to not just do pads, but also do like percussion, do single one-shot sounds or whatever, do basses, because you can get some really cool stuff. I will say that if you do basses, I would try not to smear, if that makes sense. I try not to do motion, and I would try to have something that is maybe a consistent grain size, so that way your low end or like your texture or whatever is going to be consistent. But if it's just meant for effects or whatever, then go crazy and have fun. But even still, this is a really fun way and a really cool aspect to making some really nice sounds. So let me show you this track that I've been working on, and it's very simple, and I don't really know what to do with it, but I started on stream and then I've been kind of touching on it ever since. But basically using the same method, if we kind of do a little bit of backtracking here, you will see that I used current with scalar 2 to get some interesting texture. So some stuff kind of like this, I believe. And I kind of just tore some of this out and, you know, took some other stuff from here, and we ended up with this riff that sounded really cool, which is this guy. And so basically we ended up getting this. I'll skip to the intro, and this is the tune that I wrote. Would love it if you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys know that I'm all about the music. Alckemy.com. Book a lesson with me.